I believe this probably will be the last Pink Floyd album, I'm sorry to say. I'd love to feel there was another one coming, but I don't think so.
I think we've used pretty much all that we've got that is of value. And the clock's running out, you know, it's time for us to call it a day, so this will be the last one. I'm 100% certain, 99.9% certain. Well, as you say, it's 20 years, the Division Bell came out, it's 20 years after that. A number of things have happened in those intervening years. Rick's died. We have no access to going back to doing stuff with him. And we thought, as there were these rather lovely pieces of music left over from those periods of time, that period of time, we would have another listen to it and see what sense it made, and it made a lot of sense. So here it is. Really, support or enthusiasm from other people. In particular, Andy Jackson, who was the engineer on the original sessions, who felt that it was a shame to just leave them in the vaults, and went to considerable trouble to actually start assembling something himself. And then Phil Manzanera, who came in and also added to it, and finally Youth. And after those three had all had a go at it, we were enthused enough to carry on. This album is entirely different to the Division Bell in that these sessions were originally put together with the plan that we were going to make the Division Bell a double album. Half of it would be songs and half of it would be what we called an ambient album. We were going to do more instrumental passages, and we had a brave vision of it right at the beginning, but as time went on, it started making sense to sort of make it a bit more cogent into a specific series of songs which had a theme that tied them together. And so it became a much more song-based thing, whereas what we were attempting right at the beginning involved lots more instrumental passages. These are the instrumental passages, and some other song ideas, of course, that we were originally intending to make up the direction of the album, but you know, things change as you go along. It's very, very different to the album that was released at the time. Rick's on all of it, you know, he's there, playing away. It sounds a little mawkish to say this is a tribute to Rick. It's not that, but in itself it represents a great opportunity to remind people of just how much Rick contributed to the sound of the band. A lot of the pieces of music were done on stereo tape, where even with the modern technology we have, you can't get rid of things. They're all on there together. They are the substance of the whole album Rick is playing away on. There's one or two remarkable bits and pieces in there. One of the things is this little sequence that was recorded at the Royal Albert Hall in 1968. We were setting up for one show, and while we were doing that, Rick went off to play the giant organ. And we actually found the tapes of this noodling around on the organ, which is just terrific. Well, there were different sets of sessions at the beginning. We started off in Britannia Row Studios in Islington, where we did a week with Rick and Nick and myself just jamming, playing away, or trying little ideas that each of us might have had. Then we did a second week where we added bass player Guy Pratt. And at those sessions, I had the microphones were going through a control room and coming back out to where I was playing like this, and I had a DAT recorder next to me. And any time anything sounded interesting, I'd press play and record. The big thing was that we actually were interacting with each other. This was, and it's frightfully old-fashioned, but it was something we wanted to revisit. It was the way we used to play together in, 40 plus years ago, and
I think it produced some sort of really unusual results, and something we used to do and was really fun to rediscover.
It was really a matter of getting to know each other again, musically and personally, and it was very comforting, exciting and comforting. I suppose you could say as well that we were trying to recapture a way of doing things that we had done way back into the 60s and through the early 70s, which somehow got lost as the years went by.
Because that's what it is. Because, as I said earlier, it was planned to be half of, or a disc in its own right, with no songs on it at all. At the end of the day, there seemed a really good opportunity to put in one song that had some particular relevance, as really to relate the record back to the original Division Bell. So the song itself actually takes the very end song of the Division Bell and sort of picks up from that.
There are 2 or 3 pieces, not very many, that I think could possibly have made songs. But when Polly Sampson, the novelist and Division Bell lyricist, came up with some words for that one song, that seemed to be so good at encapsulating something about the band that it seemed superfluous to try and add any more. There's one other song that has words on it, but they're spoken words by Stephen Hawking, of course, but it's not exactly a song. The great majority of it was recorded back in '93. You know, some of the things didn't have drums on and felt like they should have had drums on, so we've added drums, and I've added guitars. The vocals, obviously, on Louder Than Words are new.
A lot of the drums have been re-recorded, I'm happy to say, because it's really unusual to be able to revisit a drum track that you did 20 years ago and repair some of the things that you thought were wrong. But to actually break down what's new, what's old, is in many cases really difficult. Sometimes it's the fact that something that was originally there has been cleaned up and been almost lifted and replaced on some new backing tracks.
The majority of it is back there, and the bed of all of it is back there.
Well, I hope that he'd have been absolutely delighted with it. I think he would have done. I think he would have been pleased with it.
Rick's contribution is very big on this record. It's all the way through. I think he'd have been thrilled. I can't see that he wouldn't have been.
Good God, no. I think a bit like Ringo thinking he'd open a chain of hairdressers. I thought it was my gap year. I'm now on my 45th gap year.
I wasn't even sure that I'd still be employed in 3 years, let alone all these 40 whatever it is years later. You just, when you're a young chap in your early 20s, you really aren't thinking about what's going to be happening when you're in your 60s.